Picture a building the size of several city blocks where the air inside is kept below 1% humidity, drier than the Sahara. Robot arms lay a black electrode slurry onto copper foil, moving at high speed, while cameras scan every centimeter of the surface. Rows of sealed metal cells sit in formation racks for days, cycling through charge and discharge while software watches every voltage curve. One invisible particle of metal debris, a coating that deviates by a fraction across the width, a fold in a polymer separator thinner than a human hair. Any of these can ruin a battery before it ever reaches a car. CATL's Ningde campus in Fujian province runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to prevent exactly that. In 2025, roughly 4 in every 10 EV batteries installed worldwide came from one company. The question is not simply how they make a battery. It is how they make billions of them without letting the chemistry drift. The Ningde manufacturing campus in Fujian province is one of the largest battery production complexes on Earth. CATL, founded here in 2011, now operates multiple phases of the site continuously, 3 shifts running around the clock, with automated lines that process cathode powder, graphite, metal foil, separator film, and electrolyte in long parallel lanes that never fully stop. The real story of a battery gigafactory is not a line of robots moving fast. It is a factory designed to control chemistry, humidity, dust, pressure, heat, electricity, and data simultaneously, without pausing. CATL became one of the most consequential companies in the electric vehicle supply chain by treating battery production more like semiconductor manufacturing than conventional assembly. The question is not simply how EV batteries are made. It is how you make billions of delicate layers behave like one predictable machine, across every shift, every day, every year, and how you prove every cell is safe before it leaves the building. A battery plant does not really begin with steel columns, loading docks, or robots bolted to the floor. It begins with a process map. Long before a finished cell rolls into a tray, engineers have to decide the route each gram of material will take through the building. Cathode powder, graphite, copper foil, aluminum foil, separator film, electrolyte, tabs, cases, sensors, and packaging all have to move through different zones without creating chaos. In a car factory, you can often see the product taking shape. A chassis moves down the line, doors go on, wheels go on. The machine becomes recognizable. A battery factory is stranger. For much of the process, the product is a black slurry, a coated sheet, a roll of film, or a sealed metal container that looks ordinary while carrying enormous electrical potential. That is why the layout matters so much. Raw materials need controlled storage. Mixing needs precision. Coating needs long, clean lanes. Drying needs heat and airflow. Assembly needs dry rooms where moisture is treated like an enemy. Testing needs space because a new cell cannot simply be filled and shipped. It has to wake up slowly. CATL's Ningde campus was named a World Economic Forum Lighthouse Factory in 2021, but the more consequential fact is that it never stops. No scheduled shutdown, no overnight quiet. The coating lines run. The dry rooms hold temperature. The test racks cycle. If the factory drifts, a humidity spike, a slurry batch outside spec, a machine that starts cutting slightly off-center, the problem compounds across every cell made during that window. Before anything else, the blueprint has to get the physical path right. Because once that path is running, the only job is to keep it from drifting. The most important part of an EV battery does not look impressive at first. It arrives as fine powder in sealed containers. For the cathode, that powder may contain carefully engineered lithium compounds with nickel, manganese, cobalt, or iron phosphate chemistry, depending on the battery type. For the anode, graphite is a key material. None of this can be treated like ordinary bulk cargo. A small variation in particle size, moisture, or contamination changes how evenly ions move inside the finished cell. The factory's first job is to turn dry material into a consistent slurry. Think of it like making a specialized paint, except this paint will become an energy storage device charged and discharged thousands of times. Powders are weighed. Binders and solvents are added, and large mixing systems run until the slurry reaches the correct viscosity. Too thick, and it will not coat smoothly. Too thin, and it creates weak spots. Even tiny air bubbles matter. An air pocket at this stage is invisible, but it can show up as a dead zone inside the finished cell months later. This is also where continuous operation starts to matter in a specific way. A mixing batch cannot simply be paused and resumed the next morning. The chemistry is live, and any interruption risks introducing variation. So when a shift changes on the mixing floor, the handover is engineered, not improvised. The factory may move material by the ton, but the quality battle is already happening at molecular scale. And once the slurry is ready, it moves into the step where even the smallest inconsistency travels much farther than anyone wants. The coating line is one of the quiet giants of battery manufacturing. It takes the slurry and lays it onto thin metal foil, aluminum for the cathode, copper for the anode. This sounds simple until you imagine spreading a precise layer across a sheet moving continuously, where every meter must match the last one exactly. This is where a battery can be compromised without anyone seeing it happen. If the coating thickness varies even slightly across the width, the battery will not charge evenly. A poor edge can cause the sheet to tear during the next step. A flawed drying profile can crack the electrode or break its bond to the foil. After coating, the wet electrode enters a long drying oven where heat removes solvent and locks the active material in place. Then comes calendaring, where heavy rollers compress the electrode to a precise target thickness. Cameras and sensors scan the moving foil for surface defects in real time, flagging sections that fall outside tolerance. What gets flagged is cut out and scrapped. Modern coating lines run continuously through the full 24-hour cycle, which is why engineers at facilities like Ningde watch machine drift as one of the most important risks. A roller that has worn slightly, a nozzle beginning to clog, or a solvent ratio that has shifted can produce thousands of meters of marginally substandard electrode before the deviation shows clearly in downstream results. Catching that drift early, while it is still small, is the difference between a modest scrap run and a plant-wide quality event. Once the coated sheets leave the oven, the factory enters a zone where dust and loose metal particles stop being an inconvenience and become a direct safety hazard. After coating and compression, the electrode sheets are slit and cut into the shapes the cell design requires. Long rolls of coated foil become narrower rolls or individual electrode sheets. The danger is that cutting metal produces burrs, fine particles, and rough edges. In most factories, a metal shaving is dirt. In a lithium-ion battery factory, it is a short circuit waiting for the wrong conditions. That is why cutting, inspection, and cleaning are inseparable. Cameras mounted above the slitting line capture every centimeter of cut edge at high resolution. Vacuum systems pull debris away before it can migrate into the next zone. Sections that fall outside tolerance are flagged automatically and pulled from the flow before they can contaminate cells downstream. What makes the cutting zone important beyond the physical task is the data it produces. Each roll of electrode carries a batch identity linked to the slurry mix, the coating run, the oven conditions, and the inspection results at every prior step. Think of it as a glowing trace that follows each section through the factory. Every machine it touched, every measurement taken, every result logged. If a camera flags an edge defect on a specific roll, engineers can query every cell that material went into not by searching paper records, but through a production database updated in near real time. That trace matters because battery defects rarely announce themselves immediately. A weak cell may perform acceptably for weeks, then show abnormal behavior after resting. The full history narrows a root cause search from factory-wide to one specific machine, one shift, one batch. And after cutting, every electrode enters the most environmentally demanding space in the building. Moisture is one of the quiet enemies of lithium-ion manufacturing. The electrolyte inside many cells reacts badly with water, and even small amounts can damage performance or generate unwanted chemical byproducts. So the assembly zone is built around dry rooms with relative humidity held below 1%, maintained continuously, around the clock, every day of the year. To a visitor, a dry room may look less dramatic than a robot line. But from an engineering point of view, it is one of the most expensive and difficult parts of the factory to operate. Desiccant wheels, chillers, and air handlers run without interruption. Doors are engineered as airlocks. Workers entering follow transfer procedures designed to keep atmospheric moisture out. Because the dry room cannot simply be switched off and restarted, any failure of the climate system has to be caught and corrected while production continues around it. This is where separator film meets electrodes. The separator is a thin polymer layer that keeps the anode and cathode from touching while allowing lithium ions to pass through. If that layer tears, folds, or picks up a fragment of debris, the cell can fail. Depending on the design, electrodes are stacked flat or wound into a jelly roll structure. Either way, the goal is to pack enormous surface area into a small sealed volume. It is a form of engineering that operates at the edge of what is physically manageable, densely layered, precisely separated, and completely invisible from the outside once the case is closed. And once the case is sealed, the most critical invisible process of all begins. The internal electrode structure is only the heart of the cell. It still needs electrical connections, housing, electrolyte, sealing, and a manufacturing identity. Tabs are laser welded so current can move in and out of the cell. The stack or wound roll is placed into its case, pouch, or cylindrical housing, depending on the format. Then electrolyte is injected, not simply poured in, but drawn through the porous electrode structure under vacuum, so the liquid reaches deep into every layer. If the electrolyte does not wet the cell evenly, sections of the battery will behave differently from the rest, and the problem may not surface until the cell is already inside a vehicle. After filling, the cell is sealed. From the outside, it looks finished. It is not. Every cell goes through formation, a controlled first charge and discharge sequence that builds the solid electrolyte interface, a thin protective layer that forms on the anode surface during initial cycling. That layer is essential to long-term performance and stability. Formation typically runs for 12 to 24 hours. After formation, cells move into aging racks where they sit at controlled temperature for several more days while the factory tracks voltage decay, internal resistance, and self-discharge rate. A weak cell often reveals itself here, a capacity reading that drifts, a resistance measurement that stands apart from the distribution, a self-discharge rate slightly higher than normal. In the Ningde facility, the formation and aging area alone spans thousands of square meters of racking. The cells are not doing anything visible. They are simply being watched, and what is caught here never reaches a car. In a gigafactory, testing is not a final checkpoint at the end of the line. It is built into the product's entire life inside the plant. A cell is checked for dimensions, weight, voltage, internal resistance, insulation, weld quality, surface condition, and thermal behavior at multiple stages before it is ever cleared to ship. Some checks take seconds, others take days. The reason is that a battery failure can be invisible at inspection time. A cell can pass every visual check and still carry a process history that makes it suspect, a coating run that drifted for 1 hour, an electrolyte fill that was marginally slow, a formation curve that sat at the outer edge of the acceptable window. On the floor of CATL's advanced lines, engineers watch dashboards where reject rates, capacity distributions, and resistance histograms update across every active line in real time. A sudden shift in a histogram is not a paperwork problem. It is a signal that something upstream has moved. The factory system connects anomalies detected at test racks back to specific coding machines, specific batches, specific shifts, so the source of a pattern can be identified and corrected before thousands of cells are affected. This feedback loop between test results and upstream process settings is what separates a factory that controls quality from one that merely inspects for it. The cells that pass carry a complete manufacturing record: material origin, coating conditions, formation curve, aging result. The product is not only the cell, it is the proof that the cell was made under control. And once enough cells earn that proof, they have to become something larger. A single cell is useful, but an electric vehicle needs a coordinated pack. Traditionally, battery makers grouped cells into modules first, then assembled modules into packs, adding weight, hardware, and assembly complexity at each stage. CATL's cell-to-pack architecture, refined across successive generations and scaled into mass production with its Kiln battery platform, removes the module layer entirely. Cells connect directly into the pack structure, which improves how much of the pack's interior volume holds active battery material rather than structural packaging. The pack still has to manage heat, resist vibration, protect cells from intrusion, and communicate with the vehicle through a battery management controller that watches voltage, temperature, and state of charge across every cell simultaneously. Thermal management is critical. Too cold and performance drops sharply, too hot and aging accelerates. CATL's packs use liquid cooling channels integrated directly into the structure, running continuously to keep cell temperature inside the window where chemistry behaves predictably. The cell-to-pack design also raises the stakes on upstream precision. With no module layer as a buffer, pack behavior depends directly on the consistency of individual cells, which means every step from slurry quality to formation accuracy compounds into the final assembly. Slurry quality, coating uniformity, clean cutting, dry room discipline, electrolyte filling, formation, and aging all feed into a pack that has to survive potholes, fast charging, cold mornings, and years of use. CATL's scale matters because battery manufacturing is now tied to the pace of electrification, grid storage, and industrial energy demand. When a company can produce reliable electrochemical units at this volume and consistency, the factory itself becomes infrastructure. The deeper you go inside a CATL Gigafactory, the less it looks like an assembly line, and the more it looks like a controlled scientific instrument that happens to be the size of a city block. Chemistry becomes architecture. Architecture becomes electrical behavior. Electrical behavior becomes a record. The mixing floor controls the recipe and cannot be paused mid-batch. The coating line controls thickness and scans for drift across a continuous 24-hour run. The dry room holds humidity below 1% around the clock, every day. Formation runs for 12 to 24 hours per cell, and aging adds several days beyond that. Testing connects each result to a full production history, so a deviation detected this shift is traced to its source before it multiplies. Data moves through the system in near real time, dashboards updating as racks cycle and cameras flag. That is the real Gigafactory idea. Not just bigger buildings and faster robots, but a manufacturing system where precision at molecular scale is maintained through continuous monitoring, across 3 shifts, without interruption, at a volume large enough to reshape whole industries. What part of the Gigafactory do you want to go deeper on? Dry room engineering, formation chemistry, cell-to-pack design, or something else entirely? Drop it in the comments and subscribe for more Megafactory breakdowns.